Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So anyhow, as you saw in my last video, I got all the parts here to get this timing belt finally done. It's only taken, about 10 days. So anyhow, we got the parts here to do that. We're going to start with that and then see how far we can get as far as mocking everything up. So that's the game plan. Right now we'll start with that, not get too far ahead of ourselves. And anyhow, I'll throw it on time lapse and we'll get this thing cleaned up and get it put back together. Okay, so I got the thermostat put in, the new thermostat and gasket. As you can see, it's a Lexus Toyota part number. And in case you couldn't tell in the time lapse, you got to be really careful when you're using these gasket buzzers on aluminum. If you use the roll-lock discs, especially the brown ones, they can take the surface off and make it not flat anymore, which will cause leaks and crap like that. Being that this has got a flat metal washer or gasket on there, sorry, or this has got an O-ring, never mind, but it's still important to make sure that this thing stays flat. So that's why I'm using this. You can buy these at any auto parts store. It's really kind to the aluminum. It doesn't eat it away or anything like that, so it gets a lot of the big crap off there. I use the razor blade to get the big chunks off, but as you can see, it does a pretty good job. This is just discoloring. It's not actually anything on there. And so anyhow, that's what I was doing there. So next I'm going to move back over here. We'll take the old water pump back off, clean that surface up, and then we can get to putting this thing back together. Got everything all cleaned up, ready to go. Essentially, we're going to install the water pump, get the tensioner on there, and get the belt on there. Yippee-ki-yay, we're just cruising right along here. So as you can see, I got the water pump and the tensioner bearing on there. This is the hydraulic tensioner that literally puts the tension on the belt. As you can see, there's a pin in there, kind of like a grenade pin. Anyhow, it's really important to leave that in there until you got the belt and everything on there, and then take this off at the very end. It has this in a what's the word I'm looking for? It's in the in position. That way you got enough room to get the belt on. Because if you pull that pin and put it on there, then it'll be out, and it will make the belt really difficult to get on. So just make sure you got everything on there first, and then pull that pin last, and then go from there. Just a little tip in case you've never done one before. That's done. Next, it's time to put the belt on. Should be pretty straightforward. Everything's still in time. It hasn't moved, so should be pretty straightforward. Basically, I'll go ahead and do it real quick, and then I'll give you a recap when I'm all done, the technique and all that. Okay, so how I usually like to do these is I like to make sure that it's tight here. As you can see, that's pretty tight. and obviously tight here, and all the slack is right here. See how loose that is? So that way when the tensioner comes out, it doesn't move things. I like to make sure it's tight all the way across and have all the slack right here, so that way when I pull the pin, there we go. Now it's tight. So the next thing to do that's really important is to rotate the engine over 360 degrees on the crankshaft, which would be a couple revolutions on here, and then make sure that everything lines up like it's supposed to. Plus, doing that by hand, you ensure that there's no accidents. That way you don't bend any valves or anything, because the starter will just spank a valve, no problem. But if you do it by hand, it'll stop and you'd be like, wait a minute, there's a problem. Then you can investigate. It will save you a lot of headaches down the road. So anyhow, that'll be the next thing I do, spinning the engine over and make sure that things are happy and go from there. Okay, as you saw, I cranked the engine over. I went 2 revolutions on the crankshaft just to make sure everything went through a whole cycle, and everything still lines up perfectly. The belt's nice and tight. I was pretty confident that I was right. That's why I put the cover on first. Normally, I just put the bolt in here and do it before I did all this, but I was pretty confident that I had it right. I've done a few of these. Be my advice to not do it that way, because that way, if happened to be something wrong or whatever, then of course you got to take all that back off again. But that being said, looks like we got that pretty much wrapped up. I'm going to go ahead and assemble the rest of this, and then we can get on to getting on. Okay, well, while I was taking a break there, I just really quickly, I put the water pump pulley on. It's just 4 nuts, pretty straightforward. And I also put the bolt for the power steering bracket. There's 2 bolts here. I got those put back in while I wasn't recording. So anyhow, the next thing I need to do is put the serpentine belt tensioner on and this lower cover here, and then we should be ready to take this thing off the engine stand and get to the exciting stuff. So anyhow, I'll go ahead and do that real quick, and we will go from there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video for today. I got the timing belt stuff all done as you saw. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mock everything up on the floor, but I figure I'll do that in a separate video. That way it's not a 30-minute long drawn out deal. So anyhow, I really appreciate you watching my video, and if you hit the like and subscribe button, that'd be badass, and hit the bell notification, that way you don't miss anything. And I appreciate you watching once again, and have a great day, and we'll see you next time.